What's going on, everybody? This is Brian Mazik, aka Franchise Play, and I come to you with another episode of Ask FP. And first and foremost, I would like to apologize for not delivering the show on yesterday, which is when it's normally scheduled on Tuesdays at 6 p.m. Central Time. So today we had to spin it back to Wednesday. It's having some technical difficulties too. I don't know, for whatever reason. I know YouTube is moving the Hangouts on air to another location starting on September 12th, but it started to behave as if they were going to do it today, which is not what they said they were going to do. So I found it. It was a little bit late, so that's why we were a little late. We do have some questions lined up. Before I get into those, though, what I'm going to do this time, and I have not really done it before, is I'm going to attempt to, if I can, I'm going to try to kind of keep track of the questions here so that, I remember someone had asked me about doing a somewhat of a I don't know, like like the timeline sort of jump off. I'm gonna be honest with you right now, guys. I'm a one-man show, so I try to kind of do it, but I may or may not be able to do it. I understand definitely that is something that's in my plans. I want to have that done on a regular basis, but I may not be able to promise it for every single episode, and I'll try to get it done for this one. If somebody get your boy a volunteer, an engineer, and that sort of thing, and I have you guys under control with that. But NBA 2K is coming out. The Prelude comes out on the 9th. The My NBA 2K, the mobile app for the scanning, is supposed to come out tomorrow. Not to mention, tomorrow is your boy's birthday. Boo! Yeah, well, I'm blessed and happy to live to see another day, another year, and all of that. So I'm happy about that. And then, if the face scan thing works, you scan your face on your birthday. I mean, how many other people out there birthday September 8th, you get to scan your face on your birthday? Now, I am hoping that the face scan app works. I'm getting a little bit nervous, y'all. I'm not gonna lie. I'm getting a little bit nervous. We have not seen one face scan video, no tutorial. Even in the trailers, the players that you see in the My Career trailer wasn't even face scanned. It was a created player, because y'all know I've created 679 million players over the past 4 to 5 years. I know what a creative player looks like in 2K, and that's what that trailer that you're seeing, that guy's a creative player. So I'm getting a little nervous that it's going to be on time, and then it's going to be on time, and it's going to work. So I'm worried about that. I can just hear the social media fallout. If we get to the 9th and the Prelude comes out and that mobile app ain't working for the face scanning, oh my God, 2K community is going to be like, where's Ronnie? Where's Chris? It's gonna be gonna be bad, right? I'm telling you. So I'm hoping they got it in order, because it's gonna be nasty. It's gonna be nasty. So looking forward to that. NHL, my NHL 17 review. I played the smoke out of that joint yesterday. My NHL review is coming out. It's gonna be 2:00 in the morning Eastern time, because there's a midnight embargo but it's midnight Pacific time, so it'll be 2:00 Eastern time. So that review is going to go up tonight. Though, what I'm working on is I'm working on what you would call, or what I would call, a little bit of a review rubric. And a rubric, for anybody who doesn't understand, I'm not saying that y'all don't know what it is or whatever. I just learned the word not that long ago. But basically, if you take a test or you take a class, a rubric tells you, here's the evaluation standards. Here's the parameters. This is how we're judging whatever it is that you're doing. This is how you gain success. So for me, my review rubric is going to be basically telling people, this is how I grade. This is how I judge a game, because I've gotten some questions. I remember when my Madden review came out, people were like, well, how could you give last year's game a 9 or whatever it is, and give this year's game, or 2 years ago you gave the game a 9 or whatever. This year you gave the game a 7.5 or 7.8. How did you do that? So I'm going to explain my review process in that. Also, today I dropped a daily fantasy lineup for DraftKings for week 1 of the NFL. You want to check that out? Check out the Twitter feed. It's at Unique Mazik, or you can check out my Forbes writer profile. It's there as well. I always put the link to that in the description of these videos. So there's that. So without further ado, I've been rambling for long enough. It's time to get into the reason why you guys are here, which is Ask FP. And some people have been asking FP. So the question of the week, as you could tell already, is from my man, Matt Prizzy. And Matt was gone for a minute, but I'm going to tell y'all, man, Matt was one of the most, Matt, if I had to put an all Ask FP question of the week team together, it probably had to be like Matt Price, Jared Young, Weston Flores, Simon Torvey Sunland. Y'all just bring it. My man Derek Dynasty coming with the realness lately as well too. There's some people, coming with that, with the fire, So Matt Price this time says, what are your expectations for CM Punk, his UFC debut? So for me personally, man, I really expect, as long as everything's on the up and up, I expect CM Punk to lose. Mickey Gall's a good fighter from what I've seen. So I watched the little looking for a fight thing where he was discovered by Dana White and Matt Serra and those guys. And I saw his debut fight, the one CM Punk was there for in the octagon. And from what I saw a guy who had an advanced ground game. I saw a guy who had heart, and I saw a guy who had some decent striking. From what I've gathered from CM Punk is that his grappling was rudimentary, slightly above average, maybe not. And I don't mean slightly above average when we're talking about big time Brazilian jiu-jitsu artists. I'm talking about slightly above average and talking about people who have had any type of brushings at all with mixed martial arts, I should say. So, and I heard his striking was way back, far back, right? So obviously he's been training, and I definitely believe he's been training intensely. But if all things are to be considered equal, it's very difficult for me to see how he's going to beat Mickey Gall. But who knows what happens? A lot of people, I know if he wins, there's going to be people that's going to be saying that it's not real, it's not legit, it's souped up or something. People are going to definitely say that, right? And I can understand that. It's the fight game, and the fight game is often not on the up and up, or looks fishy to it at least. So we'll see what happens. But my personal opinion, I think that Punk is going to be in a tough situation, because you're fighting in mixed martial arts. You're fighting against people who have probably been training in one or more disciplines for multiple years. I'm talking about 10, 15 years they've been training. Many of those guys have been, some of them are now, especially the younger guys, have been training since they were 10, 9, right? And CM Punk's coming in, starting his training in his late 30s, with only just a little bit of a sprinkle of an experience with Gracie Jiu-Jitsu. Because if you really think about it, the schedule that the WWE demands of you, he wouldn't have had real time to train on a really vigorous basis, on a really tough schedule while he was with the WWE. So he couldn't have really put in that much time training. So I do give him mad respect for getting out there and doing this. This is not a game. This is not a game. So we'll see what happens. But if I had to give my what I would consider, not to toot my own horn, but if I was to consider an expert opinion, I would say Mickey Gall probably should win this fight. So you can hear my tentativeness though in my prediction. But all right, next question comes from Von Raspa Jr. And he says, would you say that HBK and Undertaker became legends in the 90s? I would say that is the case for both guys. I say both of them became legends in the 90s. Obviously, they had a presence in the late 80s, and obviously, they both had a presence in the 2000s. But in the 90s, I think is when The Undertaker and Shawn Michaels reached the point where it's like, okay, these dudes, no matter what else they do, they're going to go down as two of the greatest superstars in the history of the WWE. And I think that moment for both guys was in the 90s. All right. The next question comes from Monster and the 2C's dad. And he is a new Ask FP. I got a chance to talk to him really briefly on Twitter earlier this week. I appreciate you being here. I apologize. I left the cursor up on your baby's face there on the picture. My bad. Beautiful child, bro. All right. And he says, hey, bro, from your hands-on experience with 2K17, my league online, is it similar to connected franchise in Madden and with free agency and the draft? I think it's similar to connected franchise, but I think it's more verbose than connected franchise. There's just, I mean, from what I read, man, when I was reading the feature set for my league online, they weren't really holding anything back. Not a lot of stuff back. I think I remember seeing that there was full team customization, the same way it is in offline my league. You have the draft. They have that keeper rule, which I think you got a question about that a little bit later on. So for me personally, man, I didn't see much being held back at all. They brung it, and I think it's similar to connected franchise Madden, but bigger and better, to be honest, just being totally honest. All right, my next question is also from Monster and the 2C's dad. And this time what is he asking? I'm messing up. That's what's happening. See, if you mess up, you can't see what people say. He says, also, is there a way to turn off the keeper feature and run it close to real life as possible with players' actual contracts? Yes, I do believe there is. I think the keeper feature is optional, which most of the stuff in my league is optional. One of the things that's not optional is you do have to still do the where at the end of every season, the rules committee steps in to ask you if you want to do this or change this rule or that rule. You can't turn that off, but you can in my league override any decision. So if they choose to pass a rule that you don't want to keep, you can override it and flip it back. Or if they choose to not pass a rule that you think should be passed, you can override that too. So, or if you just want to flip them all off, you can, or flip them all on, you can. Flip them all off. You don't want to flip them all off. That's pretty rude. Why would you flip all the people off? Don't flip all the people off. That's bad. Bad, bad, bad. Stop doing it. Don't ever do it. All right, next question comes from Matt Prizzy. Matt Price again, and he's going Kaepernick. He's going to go full Kaepernick on him. He says, does Colin Kaepernick have to be successful on the field for his off-the-field message to resonate more? Now, if anybody missed it, I did write an article about Colin Kaepernick, the situation. And for anybody who doesn't know, I don't know how possible you could know, but Kaepernick, in a way to protest the unfair treatment of African Americans or people of color by the police department and law enforcement, he chose to not stand during the national anthem as a form of protest. It's not a newer protest. Mahmoud Abdul-Rauf did it back in the 90s for the Denver Nuggets. And so I totally, to answer your question, I don't think his success on the field has anything necessarily to do with it. But obviously, if he plays well, he gets more attention, and then potentially his cause could get more attention. My issue, which I documented and talked about in the article, is that I'm just not totally sure that this approach is the most effective one. First and foremost, in order to impact any decision maker, especially in the country, you have to hit them in the pockets. It has to be impacting to them economically. If it's not impacting to them economically, you will not see a change. And this doesn't really impact anybody that's a decision maker in these cities and these states where these issues are happening, where it's going to cause some change. Is it causing attention? Yes. But I believe that we were already getting enough attention on the issues. And I think, if anything, all of the attention on the issues with no resolution was doing only one thing, and that was creating more bitterness, which I believe is counterproductive for everyone. What I believe we need an organized protest, peaceful set of peaceful protests and boycotts of certain products that and certain services that are researched and planned to affect the folks and the groups of people, the entities, the companies that can exact change. So, for an example, what if people in the inner cities, people of color, decided for a week, for 2 days, for 3 days, we're not going to play the lottery? A lot of the lottery system is actually what funds things in our different cities. And the people who pay into the lottery, which is largely minorities, I did some research and it was 21% African Americans playing the lottery, 26% Native Americans playing the lottery. So we're talking about almost 50% of and I didn't even talk about Hispanics, because I don't recall seeing that statistic, but just those two minority groups makes up almost 50% of who plays the lottery in the United States. Imagine if a fifth or a quarter of the people not who usually play the lottery stopped. That would be a huge economic impact to the city. And if it's known, here is why we're boycotting the lottery for these 2 or 3 days or for a week. I believe that's the type of thing that begins to create change. Kaepernick's jersey sales have gone through the roof. Well, here's my question: who gets the money for that? I mean, obviously, yes, the players union does get a cut of that, but essentially that money goes to more other billionaires and millionaires, which are people who cannot touch this particular issue. So I understand and I applaud the concept of protesting, but I just think that there is a better way of going about it, because I'm 100% in agreement with him that absolutely something has to be done. Police officers have to be held accountable. That's the end all be all of this situation. If you are a bad cop, which is there, all cops are not bad. There are some great policemen, just like there's some great teachers, just like there's great doctors, but there's also some crappy policemen, just like there's some crappy teachers and crappy doctors. People have to be held accountable when they are crappy. And that's the part that we're missing right now. We have police officers who are behaving crappily and are not being held accountable. So something has to happen to force the hand of the people in charge to hold these people accountable. So it's not about getting rid of the police and all that's ridiculous. It's not about wearing silly little socks, which is what Kaepernick did that somewhat muted his message. You wear some hateful socks, and now you expect somebody to take you serious. Now, obviously, I know he did that before he did his formal protest, but here's the issue. It shows short-sightedness, because you knew that you were going to protest. This is something that you knew, but weeks before you decided to do something like that, which to me made you look like a person who was not even in pursuit of a peaceful revolution, because there's nothing peaceful about depicting cops as pigs. I mean, that's what Charles Manson called the cops. He called them pigs. I mean, you don't necessarily want to associate with that sort of thing. So I just thought that was pretty negative overall. We're going to have to pause for 1 second. Normally we don't have to do this. We got to pause. I apologize for that brief interruption. Had some area issues I had to tend to, but yeah, just overall, that just wasn't a good look to me. I mean, it's got to be about peace at the end of the day. Obviously, I'm an African American, clearly, and issues that impact my community and other communities are of great importance to me. But at the end of the day, it's got to be about peace, and there's nothing peaceful about that. It was stereotypical. It was a generalization. As I mentioned in my article, had a high-ranking police officer worn socks that depicted African Americans in gold chains with gap teeth, yelling out or showing in any other stereotypical type of way, we would have been all over him, and rightfully so. We would have torn him to shreds. We'd have been calling for his job. That's exactly what we should have been doing. We should have really been saying, hey, you got to hold this guy accountable. So for a guy who is going to then try to take a stand to then be associated with similar behavior is just kind of not cool. It's not cool. So I don't think he's a bad guy. I just don't think he properly represented himself. And to be totally honest, I think that particular action was a bit immature. So it is what it is. All right. The next question comes from Matt Price as well. And Matt Price on this one says, which sports game does the best job of representing their sport? Now, my answer here might surprise people because, we play a lot of 2K and we do talk a little bit about Madden and all of that sort of thing. But in my opinion, if you're going to ask me which game really represents the sport the best, easily the answer to me is MLB The Show. And that's not to say the NBA 2K is not a good game, not a great game, not a great series. It's obviously the most successful sports video game series right now, probably overall. If you talked about critic reviews, a combination of critic reviews and sales, Madden is a good game. It's a good series, in my opinion. I am not a Madden hater like a lot of people. NHL is really good, doesn't get a lot of credit. Pro Evolution Soccer and FIFA, all good games. But when you sit down and talk about getting a real true to life type of an experience in your game from a sports game, to me, no other game comes as close from a realism standpoint than The Show. There's things that happen in 2K where you're like, yeah, absolute total video game. Now it's still fun, but it's like total video game. Clearly, there's definitely things that happen in Madden where you like total video game. NHL the same way, right? Soccer the same way. WWE obviously the same way. But in MLB The Show, I mean, you can go stretches of 4 to 5 games in MLB The Show and not see anything that you're like total video game, like legit. And for me, if you ask me which one represents its sport the best, that to me is the definition of that. So that's why I would say MLB The Show. All right, the next question comes from Matt Price, and I'm telling you, my man Matt Price goes from serious to silly in a second, and I love it because I do the same thing. He says, age-old question: Coke or Pepsi, McDonald's or Burger King? Now, you know what's so funny is the funny part about this is that I don't even drink pop no more. So the last time I had a Coke or a Pepsi, I can't even remember, but I've always liked Pepsi better. I don't know, just a little sweeter, maybe not quite as strong, but I've always liked Pepsi better. Now, as far as McDonald's or Burger King, I haven't talk about pop. I haven't had a hamburger I'm not talking about a turkey burger, but an actual beef hamburger. I haven't had a beef hamburger in probably like 7 years. So we can't talk about burgers. So whatever we talk is about to be something else. I haven't had any beef or pork in like 7 years. So McDonald's fries are the single greatest fries ever in the history of mankind. So that in itself pushes me more to McDonald's. But I do think the chicken nugget things are better from Burger King because the meat and the chicken nuggets from McDonald's, I have no idea what that is. It's not meat, so I don't know. But so I don't, because I don't really get that I don't get that at all either. The only thing I really get for the most part is like fries. So I'd have to go McDonald's because that's like they great. I mean, like even though I'm on this, changing my eating habits and working out 5 days a week, I'm down to I think what I've lost like 25 pounds now. I'm like kind of stuck in the mid 250s. I can't seem to push it toward the 245, which is what the goal is. But then I did kind of start eating kind of crazy a little bit, snacking too much. But the one thing I allow myself to continue to eat, or not the one thing, one of the few things I allow myself to continue to eat that I know is not necessarily best for me, is I still eat those McDonald's fries because they are just they super duper, right? All right, so the next question comes from Chicken Be Kicking. And Chicken Be Kicking says, with the news we just got about texting, Michael B. Jordan, new gameplay, and the dual control my career, etc., what stands out? Well, Chicken Be Kicking, if you really, really, really know me, you know all of that right there sounds beautiful and great. But what really stands out to me the most is still my league, my GM. The customization options blow my mind. They still blow my mind. When they open up the envelope even more and just completely free things of the way, I mean, dude, that mode is just, even if you don't like my GM in my league, say you don't even dig that, right? You gotta kind of step back and be like, dang, if I did play that mode, they killed it, right? That's the way you gotta look at it, man. It's bananas, dude. So all that other stuff is really dope, and I will definitely take it into consideration when I write my review, when I do my video review. Also, just to mention, the NHL video review will probably be out sometime later tomorrow. It's not going to come out at the same time as the written review. So that just popped in my head. But when I do my review for 2K17, I will take all of the modes into consideration. But for my personal taste and preference, the thing that stands out is my GM in my league, 100%. All right, the next question comes from Weston Flores, and Weston Flores says, would you still like sports if you found out they were rigged? Ooh-wee. That's a good one, Weston. It'd be hard, obviously, man, because now it messes with your whole everything, right? You thinking you watching like it's different with wrestling, right? We know, everybody knows wrestling is scripted, right? We all know that. But you watch it for the story development. You watch it, I watch it to see the in-ring performances, the microphone performances, because it's like watching them, it's like watching a movie, so to speak, right? So when I'm watching a movie, I'm evaluating the actors, at least that's how I watch a movie. I'm evaluating the actors' performances, the actresses' performances. If I watch a fight scene, I look at how good the fight scene is. How well choreographed was it? Was it smooth? The whole nine. So for me, watching wrestling is about watching the athleticism and the choreographed fight scenes. So and it live. It's also about watching the actors and actresses' performances on the microphone, and as well as their physical performances when they're acting, doing different demeanors, dispositions, and so on and so forth. And it's also about watching the writing, watching that, taking all of that in, and it's overall this whole drama package. But in real sports, it's not about none of that. It's about, I'm rooting for this team because you don't really know what's going to happen. Anything can happen. But if you took that out, man, that would really suck. That would really suck. So that's why I don't ever really go looking for the scandals. A lot of people just get, oh, it's rigged. Oh, they just get off on saying sports are rigged. They just throw it out there so aimlessly. So most of the time when people say that, they have no idea what they're talking about. But people just throw it out there. But I don't go looking for that, because why would I want to ruin one of the things I love the most? So, I mean, do I believe that there have been, or know for a fact there have been rigged sporting events? Absolutely. Are there a ton that have happened that we didn't know about? Definitely. But I don't know about it, and I don't want to. So I'm going to move on. The next question comes from Weston Flores, and Weston Flores asks, do you think the Cubs versus the Red Sox World Series would be very emotional with the Cubs not winning one since 1908 and Ortiz retiring? All that, Weston, all that. I mean, you got the two teams that had one of the longest, most storied slumps in terms of not winning a World Series. The Cubs still on theirs. The Red Sox have gotten off of theirs, but then, like you said, Big Papi's retiring. I mean, you're going to have one part of the country talking about Big Papi getting another ring as he leaves. You're going to have another part of the country all about that C, baby, even though it's not C, but you feel what I'm saying. The Cubs in the World Series is going to take over sports. Win or lose, the Cubs in the World Series is going to take over sports like no other baseball story has done since the McGuire, Bonds, Sosa home run chases. It's going to be that real. That's just how big the Cubs are nationwide. And if they get to the World Series, it's just going to be bananas, man. So it's going to be crazy. Even if they're not playing the Red Sox, it was going to be crazy. I mean, they could be playing the Rangers, and it's going to be nuts. So we'll see what happens. Hopefully we can get there, but yeah. Next question from Brock Lesnar. He says, does Houston deserve to be in the Big 12 after beating Alabama? They didn't beat Alabama after beating Oklahoma. I mean, you know, man, we talk about teams deserving to be in certain conferences. I'm of the opinion that, I mean, dog, should you know, the conference affiliation thing is really, that's an issue for me, because I just feel like all that stuff just kind of matters too much. That's one of the biggest reasons why I feel like the playoff should be expanded, because you need more teams, because you got to give these teams from these other conferences, the AAC and these other smaller conferences, you got to give them a chance, man, to be a Cinderella. And some people say, well, the playoffs in college football is all season long. I don't hear that, man. Come on, man. No other sport in the world functions this way. You know, you got to get it popping. I'm not going to say they deserve to be in the Big 12. What I'm going to say is they deserve to be judged on an equal playing field no matter what conference they come from. That's what I'll say. All right, the next question comes from Simon Torvey Sunderland, and this one was almost question of the week, but I thought CM Punk would be better for search engines and all that, if I'm being honest. He says, who is your favorite YouTuber? That is so awesome, right? Because as a YouTuber, you don't necessarily think about who's another YouTuber's favorite YouTuber. And so we know there's some super popular guys. You got the QJBs and the Chris Smooths and the Cash Nasty. Those guys are really popular, and they do their thing in their own way. But for me personally, my favorite YouTuber has really not changed for some time. My favorite YouTuber is K Spade, and it's for a few different reasons. Spade's content and the way he approaches it is the closest to mine and I'm not talking about the same, he plays the same games, or he plays the same modes, or he edits the way I edit. It's not that. It's just that style, that grown man gaming style. You know what I'm saying? And I know somebody has a channel or a show called Grown Man Gaming, but you know, just that approach is just the same way like I do, right? Not to mention, Spade is a really, really cool dude. And I would consider him, of the people that I have met on YouTube, to be the dude I'm probably closest with of everybody. So, you know, and I'm cool with a lot of folks. Sub the Gamer, Shakedown, Robbie with Two Brothers Gaming, who's now at 2K for that My Team Love. And I think I said sub the game. QJB, me and him are cool. You know, a lot of cats. Chris Smooth, I met. He's really super cool. Just met Cash Nasty at the community thing. He is definitely cool. You know, so, but Spade is just that's just my dude. You know, that's just my dude. I love his videos. I remember one of his YouTube videos was the first YouTube gaming video I ever legitimately laughed out loud at. He had a video where JaVale McGee was supposedly had slapped a cheerleader, and the way he did it was some kind of little glitch where the cheerleader got in JaVale McGee's way, and JaVale McGee like did like that, and the cheerleader's face went like that to say I laughed out loud. It was pretty funny. So the dude he does his thing, man. You know, he's been around for a long time. He helped a lot of people out trying to get on, you know, even people whose subscriber base has like bypassed his or whatever. But, you know, he's still that real OG as far as I'm concerned. All right. So the next question is from Matt Price. No, I'm sorry. I've run the gamut. I've run the gamut. I didn't realize I was at the end. Did this go fast today or something? It's going so fast, I don't even know when it's over. I'm sorry if y'all was thinking of another, you know, you hate when somebody be like, oh, I think I got another Snickers bar, and they reach in their bag and they don't have another. My bad for not having no more candy. I sincerely apologize. I am not that kind of dude. I'm not like a candy bluffer. So I do appreciate you watching. That's for sure. God bless. Peace.